Theologian Howard Thurman wrote about the season of Easter, what he titled The Glad Surprise. He said, "There's a deeper meaning in the concept of the glad surprise. This meaning has to do with the very ground and foundation of hope about the nature of life itself. The manifestation of this quality in the world about us can best be witnessed in the coming of the spring. It is ever a new thing, a glad surprise, the stirring of life at the end of winter. One day there seems to be no sign of life, and then almost overnight, swelling buds, delicate blooms, blades of grass, bugs, insects, an entire world of newness everywhere. It is the glad surprise at the end of winter. Such is the glad surprise. This is the resurrection. It is the announcement that life cannot ultimately be conquered by death, that there is no road that is at last swallowed up in an ultimate darkness, that there is strength added when the labors increase, that multiplied peace matches multiplied trials, and that life is bottomed by the glad surprise. Take courage, therefore." Would you take a breath with me? I love to talk about theology. I love to teach what I call Theology 101 and to think about that, what it means for us in a UU context, right? Where I went to seminary, in my tradition of Christianity, theology has a very specific definition, and we try to widen it a little bit to ask these big questions about what we believe and why we do the things we do. What is our ground? What is our source? For us as a congregation, we think of it as the mission of our church, right, that Rita mentioned earlier. This idea of embracing all souls and nurturing wholeness. And Rita gave us a little bit of the history, that before the mission was a little hard to decipher, perhaps. And we often lifted up the phrase, embracing all souls and restoring wholeness. And that language of restoration didn't resonate for everyone. There was a theological question underneath it. What does it mean to be whole? What does it mean to be restored? What is restoration? And is it all coming from a Christian lens, having to do with sin and damnation and things that we're not always comfortable talking about or that we don't necessarily believe in? But the idea of restoring wholeness and nurturing wholeness, I think, are connected. And it begs this question, the Theology 101 question. What is your theology of wholeness? What does that mean to you? As I've said before, I'm a restorationist, right? I resonate with that restoring language. So I want to tell you this story. For the past year and change, I have been working on an interfaith organizing campaign around Philadelphia public schools and the budget that we get from the state and from the city, and helping to restore some wholeness in the schools after the COVID pandemic. It's been really clarifying work. It's been really hard work. And last year, we got an organizing win. We got extra positions put into the budget for this year to increase some of the needed teacher positions to help offset some of the cuts and the pain from the COVID pandemic worst years. And we were very excited about that. And this year we said we're going to push for more. We're going to get 5 extra positions in the budget for every Philadelphia school. And we felt really confident about it. But as this year has come and gone, and as the Philadelphia schools came out with their budget recently, we're not going to win. And not only are we not going to win, we might actually lose those positions we fought for last year. That's tough. For me, who is super competitive and also super optimistic and hopeful, it is hard to lose. So the theological question in that is, what do we believe and why do we do what we do? How do we go forward? What's the theological question in this moment? Do we keep fighting knowing that we're going to lose because the kids are worth it? Do we keep fighting because it makes us feel a little better? Do we keep pushing because maybe we set the ground for next year to come back and try again? We've been asking these questions in my little organizing group, and I've been lifting up the words of emergent strategy, this principle, this series of organizational principles that has been made super famous recently by the author Adrienne Marie Brown in a little book entitled Emergent Strategy. And if this is new for you, emergent strategy is basically a way to view the world and our human systems by looking at the natural world and nature systems, to try and mirror the natural biome, to mirror microorganistic life, animalistic life with our own human world, to try and copy what the critters are doing. The goal, the mission in emergent strategy is how to be in harmony and love in and with the world. How to be in harmony and love in and with the world, to learn from the natural world better ways to strategize, organize, to grow, to change, to adapt, and ultimately to thrive. The underlying idea is that in the glad surprise of spring, that nature is moving towards thriving and wholeness naturally. That's what we call the telos in theology, the direction of the thing. Our mission here, this congregation, we say is embracing all souls and nurturing wholeness. That's our telos, our direction. That we want to be welcoming and we want to nurture wholeness in one another and in ourselves. So what do we think about wholeness? And what does that mean we think about brokenness? A lot of the pushback and the discomfort around restoration was that idea of maybe that's saying there is some kind of original brokenness, some inherent brokenness, some original sin, perhaps, language that some of us are familiar with. I used to be really uncomfortable with that language. It didn't resonate for me. I didn't like to think about brokenness because I don't like to lose. I don't think of myself as broken. I didn't want to think of our organizing team as broken or our campaign as broken. So I tried incorporating these emergent strategy principles into my life and into the leadership. And so if you have an order of service, the principles are actually at the top of your second or third page in the quote section. It's a short guide of the emergent strategy principles. I think there are 7 of them. I'm only lifting up a few today, but I invite you to check out emergent strategy principles at your own time. The ones that stuck out to me most were to be like water. To be like water, to flow and adapt and change. Be like water. And secondly, that there is no failure. There's only data. That in nature, water flows and adapts and changes, and there's no such thing as failure. Even when species go extinct, the dinosaurs, there's no failure, there's only data. That nature as a whole is learning how to move towards thrive, to move towards wholeness. And then the last one, that there is a conversation that only the people in this room can have. That we don't have to solve the problems of the world. We have to have the conversation here. I've been lifting these questions up in theological terms to ask, what is our theology around this? So we're talking about Flora, Fauna, and wholeness today. So what is your theology of wholeness? I invite you to take a second and think about that. What does wholeness mean to me? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And conversely, or in addition to, what does brokenness do for you? What does that look like, feel like? Does wholeness make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, and brokenness make you feel a little constriction around your heart? Does wholeness feel too high and far away, and brokenness give you a queasy stomach? then what is our theology of restoration? To restore things. Can old, hurt things become part of something new and life-giving? Can things be restored, redeemed, repaired, recovered? I think so. Not just from my Christian background, but from looking at the world. This is emergent strategy principle. How often do we see dead things turned into whole things? The broken parts of forest becoming new greenery. So as we think about nurturing wholeness in ourselves, I think it also comes with dealing with brokenness. We're reminded of our wholeness, being in the right place at the right time, as Rita said, doing something good for someone else, to feel that feeling, to ground ourselves, to recharge ourselves, to remind ourselves, to awaken to this idea of wholeness, of love with a capital L, that reminds us that brokenness is not what you are at your core. It's not inherent. It's original goodness, original blessedness, what we call the transcendent within, we might. That's what I've been noodling on. Wrestling with my discomfort with the idea of being broken or a failure. With the emergent strategy principles that there is no failure, there's only data. There's a lesson to be learned. That the people in this room, in this congregation, can work on. The conversation only we can have, the work that only we can do. And if we believe in the idea of being blessed, from my tradition, we talk about we are blessed to be a blessing to others. I think that looks like doing restorative work. Even when we lose campaigns, when we pick up injuries, when we feel like failures, when our relationships break down. My hope is that this is a place where we come to find community support and to be reminded that maybe something new is being done with that. That we don't know why bad things happen, but that doesn't mean that that's the end of the story. To see what new thing is being done. So I'm going to take a risk and offer you one very silly proof of this, and one very serious one. Sometimes bad things happen and we don't know why, but they can be turned into good things, to beautiful things, to restored and whole things. So if you are familiar with something called TikTok, this will make a lot of sense. If you're not, the next 3 minutes are going to be very confusing, but try to stay with me. There is a website, an app on your phone called TikTok where you can take videos of yourself and they get shared around. And what often happens is that music is made out of them. So I'm going to share with you a TikTok. I'm very much hoping so this is going to work. And I want to share with you that it takes a moment of pain and perhaps failure that is kind of funny and turns it into something new and beautiful. So it is both funny and serious. It's okay to laugh. This is our dear friend Katie Laurel. We need to bring that up. Mike, on that right computer for our people in the sanctuary, can you click on Zoom, please? The icon in the bottom. Beautiful. This is our friend Katie Laurel. She thought she was going to do a dance or sing a song, I think, and it didn't go quite as planned, but I want you to see what happens even in this moment of pain and perhaps failure.
It start picking it up, everybody shake it up and stay alive, stay alive. Stay alive.
Alright, we can do it. Ready?
No matter what I do, all I think about is you. The city breaking it up, everybody shaking up and staying alive, staying alive. Staying alive. All the time I turn around, brothers gather round, always looking at me up and down, looking at my. I just want to stay now. I ain't trying to round up, drama little mama. I don't want to take a man, and I know I'm coming off just a little bit conceited, and I keep. Oh baby, baby, oops, I did it again. I play with your heart, got lost in the game.
All right, whenever you're ready, take your time, okay? Me and you, don't be nervous.
Should have bought your flowers and held your hand.
The farmer had a dog and Bingo was his name. O-B-N-G-O.
Okay, guys, get ready. Get ready. Katie, what's our starting note? 3, 2, 1, go.
More than a woman. Keep on falling in love.
It makes me weak. I get so weak in the knees I can hardly speak. I lose all control.
Am I more than you bargained for yet? Been dying to tell you.
5, 4, 3, 2. No, you'll see. Somehow the world will change for me and be so wonderful.
Ooh, listen, baby, ain't no mountain, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby.
Very excited to be collaborating with you on this one. Very excited. Let's get this going. You start us off. Keep on falling.
I told you it was silly. And if we think about this in a wider scale, bad things don't have to happen for good things to emerge, right? I don't believe in redemptive suffering, but I do believe that things can be instructive. There's a lesson to be learned. It can be part of our overall journey towards wholeness, towards restoration. I don't think we can appreciate what wholeness is without having a few places broken along the way. And sometimes it is from that brokenness, it's from that discomfort, from that pain, where the new thing, the glad surprise, is born. Sometimes the places of discomfort, of pain, of hurt, are where the broken branch blooms first. Where the broken branch blooms first. Outside of our sanctuary over near our playground, there's a Japanese cherry tree. And after the first few days of the pandemic, as spring rolled around in 2020, I was walking by outside and I noticed a branch had snapped and was hanging down almost vertical. Mike, can you bring up our slideshow? Share screen and bring up the slideshow on our Zoom computer. And can you click on the screen? That's our tree outside. And that's the broken branch that's hanging down. And it was the first one to bloom in the spring of 2020. Friends, may we be blessed in our brokenness, in our restoredness, in our wholeness, on every step in between. May the moments of hurt and pain and failure be lessons that we learn. May we be like water and adapt and change and grow and thrive. May we sing this new song when we are called to it, to be reminded of our belovedness above all else. The love that makes things possible. May our broken branches always be blooming. May we learn from the natural world, and may we move in our telos towards wholeness, always. May it be so, amen. As we wind down our service, this is the time where we collect our offering of financial resources for the good of this community. If this is your first time here, there's no expectation that you give. We won't be passing a plate here in the sanctuary. We'll set a plate at the back of the sanctuary that you can drop anything in that